important issues facing the Congress, I always say the same thing. The children, the children, the children, their health, their education, the economic security of their families, a safe, healthy environment in which they can thrive, a world of peace in which they can reach their fulfillment. And right now we're faced with a situation where we can do much better for the children. I always am fond of the phrase, you're in your mother's arms. That's one of the most reassuring and comforting phrases for a child, that everything's going to be okay. In their parents' arms, mother and father, family. So what we're just hoping to do is to have an improvement on the Senate bill for the children. For the children, health, we must have a higher standard of medical attention for them, as well as for their hygiene, their nutrition, and for the training of the personnel who deal with, who address their needs. For the children, for their safety, we want them not to have to be in an influx center longer than 90 days, so that they can safely be placed with family or other opportunities for their safety, 90 days, and that in those influx facilities, that the contractors who are hired, if they don't live up to the standards of the influx centers, that they would be terminated after 6 months. For the children, we want to reimburse the faith-based organizations, local governments, even the armed forces, not the state for the funds that have been spent to protect the children and their families. So these are very simple things for their health, as I said, for their safety, for their well-being, and for their comfort. We're hoping to have this model of really a pilot program of a place of cultural, linguistic, religious comfort level for the children, where they can be a migrant processing center that is, like I say, for the comfort of the children. So what we're asking for is to have transparency and accountability in how we deal with it. This isn't about, I hear some people saying it's about more money. No, it's not about more money. It's about more accountability and more standards that I think we all share. I don't know why anybody would be afraid of that. My view, as many of you know, I mean, I would be considered one who's not inclined to violence and war or in any way. But if you start endangering children, I become a lioness. You get near those cubs, and it just evokes a response that is natural. And I, as a mother of 5, grandmother of 9, I just feel that way about all children. I know what opportunities our children have. We want all children to have those. So all we're saying there is for their comfort, for their safety, for their well-being, for their health, we can do so much more. It'll only take a few minutes in conference. These issues are not unknown. And remembering, all of these children are God's children. They all have a spark of divinity that we must respect, and hope that our own spark of divinity in us will relate to theirs, the humanity that should evoke in us. So this isn't about threats or challenges or anything like that. It's only about humanity and the courage to do what is right for the children. It's not, it wouldn't take a long time, but it would make a big difference. And that is what I'm very proud of our colleagues for what we voted on the other day. A conference is a compromise, and so we suspect that would be part of our conversation. But for some reason, the Senate Republicans have decided they don't want to go there. And I think that the public should know that. I had a very good conversation with the president. I think he would have been well disposed, but now he's in Japan. So hopefully I have a chance to share our religious values with Vice President Pence this morning. What else is happening? Okay, we're out there for the people. When we come back, we will be doing national security issues. We will be doing the the Armed Services Committee authorization bill, the National Defense Authorization bill. That's when we come back. We'll be talking about following up on what the Senate did on arms sales and the like. And we will hear, on another note, we will hear from Special Counsel Robert Mueller on July 17th. We look forward to hearing that from him. But I would hope that we could, pass today in a bipartisan way the SAFE Act, save our federal elections, because that is, again, John Lewis said this at a press conference we had on the Voting Rights Act, which is a partner to this bill, NHR 1. It's a sacred right, the right to vote. Any questions? Let me see if we can do somebody new. No. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you know, Senator McConnell has said he would table your new border bill if you send it over, and the administration also opposes it. So if it comes to it, would you put the Senate bill as passed on the floor of the House?
Well, I haven't been told by the administration that the president seemed well disposed to some of what we were proposing. And here's the thing. What are they afraid of? I don't see that same attitude coming from the administration. I see that coming from Mitch McConnell, and I just don't know why. We have respected the fact that the Senate has passed their bill. We think they should respect the fact that we've passed ours. So if this is how he sees things for the future, cooperation is a two-way street. And when you're talking about the children, this is a very big priority for us. So we'll continue our conversation without threats or without predictions, but holding up this concern for the children on the border and for children across America as a moral imperative, and we will fight that fight.
So, Madam Speaker, are you ruling out putting the Senate bill on the House floor?
We are looking forward to having a conversation, further conversations on this matter, one step at a time. Yes, sir.
I wondered, with all the attention focusing on immigration and the picture of the drowned immigrants, do you think there's any prospect for broader immigration legislation this year for policy instead of just spending today?
I'm encouraged by my conversations with the president on the subject. I spoke to him on Friday, and I spoke to him on yesterday, and we talked about the fact that if we're going to deal with these issues, we have to deal in a way that builds on the DREAM Act and Promise Act and goes further to address the many people in our country who need to have a path to citizenship, which is overwhelmingly supported by the American people. So, yeah, no, I think that I think we're going to have we're going to continue those conversations, and hopefully that's something that can be done in the near rather than the longer term. But it has to be done. You know, we can talk all we want about one thing or another, and we have always talked about comprehensive immigration reform, but since that didn't happen, we did the Dreamers. We want to do some visas maybe when we come back, ag jobs. There are a number of things that really must be addressed, but hopefully we can work in a way that respects the dignity and worth of every person, understands what immigration means to America, and constantly reminding people of President Ronald Reagan's last speech as President of the United States when he spoke about the vital force of America's preeminence in the world being every new generation of newcomers who comes to America. So look it up. It's a beautiful speech, much better than I just did.
Madam Speaker.
Now we say, wait a minute, no. Okay, you go.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to follow up.
We had like a Williamsburg rule in our caucus, is if you asked the question of the previous meeting, then you have to be in line behind other people who didn't ask in the previous meeting. We'll go see if I can answer. No, it was because we were at a Williamsburg thing, and you know how it is. Sometimes the same people jump in the front of the line. You wouldn't understand that, I know.
I just wanted to follow up on his question about that photo of the man that was drowned with his toddler daughter. What was your immediate reaction when you saw that photo, and who do you hold responsible for it? Is there anybody to blame for that?
Can you just imagine the father put the little girl on the shore to go back to get the mother, and the little girl wanted to be with her father, and she got back in, and then he couldn't save her, and then he couldn't save himself. This is such a tragedy. I think it's not a question of blame. It's a question of being prayerful and understand the consequences of policy. I'm sure that nobody who decided to have a policy would say, and I don't care if something like this happens. But it does happen. And I visited the border so many times over the years, not just in recent years. The Rio Grande has personality. This is not just a little river that you swim across. It has its moments. So I can just imagine how that happened. And I just think it's such a shame for that to be the face of America around the world. So let's just step back from it from a policy standpoint. This is one of those metered situations where people who come to our country and want to be admitted have to meet certain standards. That's the way it is. But it isn't, and I have this conversation with my Republican colleagues frequently, it shouldn't be a crime to have a visa, to have a status violation. If somebody commits a crime or is guilty of a crime and they're in our country, prosecutorial discretion would warrant that they are justified that they be sent away. So nobody's saying if people are, but if you overstay your visa or you're coming in, as this family would have been coming in, but they had narrowed the number of people coming in through the ports of entry, so they were coming in not through the ports, and that's not unusual there. I've physically seen that happen there. Then, again, enlarge the issue, weigh the equities. We're talking about human lives, and let's just subject people to the laws. But we also have to recognize that everybody in America has rights. Everybody in America has rights. And we're trying to make people aware of their rights once they're in our country. But you just cannot say, and there's a disagreement, that anybody coming across the border is breaking the law. Not until there's been a determination as to whether they can stay or not, but just because they're coming across the border, they don't. Now, we all want to have border security and do what we need to do to protect our borders, north, south, east, west, Gulf Coast, whatever. We have to do that. But we don't have to undermine who we are as a country by saying it's a crime to engage in an internationally recognized opportunity to make your case, to come into a country, any country, any country.
Madam Speaker. Thank you. Good morning. Can you describe the time crunch that we're under? I know you say the Senate passed their bill, you're going to pass another version today. You have to be mindful of what both bodies have stood for here. But there is a time crunch, and there's a risk of not doing anything, getting any agreement before the break. Can you describe what that risk is if we can't come to an accord?
Did I not answer this question? One step at a time. One step at a time, Chad. We like to see if we can have some conversation. And if there's a rejection because they don't agree that we should have healthier medical facilities and nutrition and hygiene and trained personnel, let's find that out. Because it's not more money, it's just how the money is spent. Or if they say that those organizations, faith-based organizations in the region should not be compensated fully for what they have already provided, well, let's find that out. So what is the objection? They may have some, it's a compromise. So there may be some things that we would yield on depending on the objection they may have. So we're just taking it one step at a time. And I say this almost with a sense of thanks for telling us, everyone. We know how urgent it is to get the money and the resources and the changes to these children, and we care very much about them. We just want to do the best we can for them under the circumstances. But understand this is a day. This is not the end of this discussion because we will have more time to shine a bright light on what is happening there, what difference one policy or another might make, and how we can be respectful, not only of those people, but the people who are trying to help them, some in the public sector, some in the nonprofit sector, many people of faith. Yesterday I spoke to the Cardinal of Houston, the Bishop of Austin, the Archbishop of Los Angeles, all of us sharing our concerns about God's children. How many more? We have to go to the floor, Nancy.
Eugene Carroll's friends, Carol Martin and Lisa Bernbach, have now gone public to confirm that she told them that the president attacked her in a dressing room at Bergdorf right after the incident allegedly took place. What, if anything, should Congress do about an allegation of rape against the president?
Oh my gosh, we're so immersed in what's happening in Iran, what's happening at our border. There's so many policy issues that we have responsibility for, including keeping our elections safe today, as well as protecting the children to the best of our ability. I haven't spent any time on that, and I just am not. I don't know the people you're referencing. I don't know the person making the accusation. I just am not. I haven't paid that much attention to it. I'm more concerned about policy decisions that we have disagreements on, that we need to come to agreement on, that affect, for the people, the lives of the American people. I appreciate that. Is this getting more publicity? Again, I just am not following it that closely.
She says that she was raped by the president. First woman to come forward and say that he actually raped her.
Look, I respect, I mean, Lord knows I respect the concerns that are expressed by women as they present their truth, their case. And I don't, as I say, I don't know the person. It doesn't matter if I did or not. I respect that, but I don't know what Congress's role would be in this. But in any of these things, this is about not what Congress will do. This is about what the president's own party would do. You'd really have to ask them. But I'm busy worrying about children not being in their mother's arms because of policies that we may have. I'm concerned about one thing we did that was great last week. Wasn't bipartisan; it was just Democratic votes. But we passed in Richie Neal's leadership in Ways and Means a bill to help poor children in America with the low-income tax credit and the child tax credit, but the younger children's child tax credit. That's what we spend our time on here. So I'm respectful of any woman who comes forth with her story. I don't know what the role is of Congress. Perhaps others are working on this, but I'm not.
Do you expect to reach a negotiated settlement with U.S. Chief Lighthizer?
We hope so. This will be our last question because I have to go to the floor.
Or do you expect that this is going to take a reopening of negotiations in a limited sense with Canada and Mexico? Is that even possible? And does it mean that you don't get to vote on the floor on USMCA this year?
I didn't understand. Was that a question or a statement, the last one? Does it mean? Oh, no, here's the thing. I had on the subject of U.S., Mexico, Canada, we have to get a name for that. NAFTA Revisited, NAFTA 2.0, NAFTA. They have all kinds of names, but whatever it is, we had, as much as possible, we are trying to keep the discussion on track and on schedule. And what the schedule is when we come to agreement. So that engineer back from that, whenever that is. But I had the Ambassador Lighthizer yesterday with the caucus to again narrow in on where our concerns are. I've told you over and over, enforcement, the overarching issue. You can have every kind of agreement in the world, but if you don't have effective enforcement, you're just having a conversation. Enforcement. Under there are three issues. Workers, what does this mean for America's working families? Environment. What does it mean in terms of the environment? And third, the cost of prescription drugs, the pharmaceutical issue. Those three are very important to a broad, across-the-board group of our members. we have some dogs and cats under there, other smaller, more regional issues. We love our dogs and we love our cats, so that is not to make them any less important. It's just the first overarching and the three could be deal breakers. So what we would propose is that we have to have enforcement, that we don't have enforcement if it's in a letter, a sidebar, a law in our country, your country, his country, but not in the agreement. So I could see a scenario where we would just, for the singular purpose of doing enforcement, that we would suggest that they should open. I mean, it's a question of having the strongest possible vote. We want to pass this bill. We do not want to pass this agreement just slightly different from NAFTA with a little sugar on top and said, see, we did something different. If it really isn't going to be enforceable, it will just be NAFTA with sugar on top. Now, I voted for NAFTA. I took all the heat in the world for voting for it, and I've had my disappointments. So I know what we have to do to make it work.
Necessary to reopen in a limited sense.
And, yeah, it couldn't be like we're opening it up and now it's ollie ollie and free. No, it would be surgical. It would be surgical. And I'm hoping that we can do it. As I say to the president, to the administration, you have leverage. We want to change NAFTA. And I think that's across the board that we do. And everybody's working very hard to understand the differences, to try to eliminate some or prioritize as we go along, so that I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do something. The ambassador frequently will say, we just don't want to get this into the presidential. And like, these presidential candidates, they're 20, and I think most of them probably would want a better NAFTA, but I certainly don't speak for them. But that really doesn't have anything to do with, it's about the substance of the agreement, not the politics at all. So, thank you.
Administrative fixes that the president might be able to offer you that you would trust if you can't make an agreement with Senator McConnell to address some of these concerns on immigration?
Well, I think that Senator McConnell will do what the president wants. But, no, we would rather have it statutory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Saying that the House will take this bill.